commission with a 99-year history in the state of Minnesota. And in Willmar, we're well over 50 years. So we have a long-standing history within this community. Tonight, we are pleased to host first in the series of 8 candidate forums we'll be holding this year. So we are busy people. This forum will include the Willmar mayor candidates and also the Willmar Ward 2 City Council candidates. Questions come from the audience that is present here tonight, as well as those we've received on our league website. The purpose of this forum, and this is extremely important, is to distinguish the differences between the candidates so that voters have better information to make their choices on who should represent them in their city government. The format will be an opening statement of 2 minutes from each candidate. We will have 1.5 minutes to answer questions, and then a 1-minute closing statement. And we will first hear from our opening statement with Steve Pepin.
Good evening. First of all, thank you for having me. My name's Steve Pepin. I moved here in 2004. I got the opportunity, blessed with the opportunity to play football at Ridgewater. John Braw reached out to me. I also got an education in business. I opened up a couple businesses in town. I got Pep's Barbershop and Relentless Ink right now. One of the things I want to speak up on right away is why we are here. We're here to represent the citizens of Willmar. I'm here to speak up on their behalf. A lot of course, I have my opinions, thoughts, and ideas, but mainly what I like to do is be here on behalf of the people.
Thank you, Steve. Marv Kelvin.
Well, as well, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for allowing us to have this opportunity to, as your opening comments, Ms. Dahl, were to show the differences. Because in this election, there's great differences between the two people who are running for the city mayor position. And I think to really understand the differences is you have to look to the history. And as I like to say, past performance is indicative of future behaviors. And I think that you find that in government, you find that in leaders, and you find that when people are doing different things. And so a little bit about myself. My wife and I reside in Willmar. We've resided in Willmar for just about 5 years. We grew up and graduated from Willmar High School. My wife was a graduate of 1976. Don't tell her I told you. But I graduated in 1974. We were sweethearts in high school, and we've been married for 41 years. And she's the love of my life. The reason I get up in the morning, Q102 had a post up the other day, and they said, "What's the first thing you thought about this morning?" And I just put up there, it's kind of quirky, but I put up there, first thing I thought of, I woke up, I looked at my wife, and I said, "I am so blessed to be married to such a great woman." And of course, people kind of thought that was kind of quirky, but, that's the truth. I mean, good relationships foster good things happening. And the reason I tell you that is because there's a lot of important things that happen beside that. We've had our daughter, Michelle. She has 4 children of her own. And our son, Rob, has 1 daughter. And, when I started working I started out in the trenches. I was working on a turkey farm, picking eggs at a turkey farm. My wife was working at the Willmar Public Schools as a lifeguard in the school system. And we got up one morning and we said, we want to change narrative. We want to change what we're doing. And the rest is history, as the old saying goes. So I've served as your mayor for the last 4 years, and I look forward to serving for another 4 years.
Great, thank you. We will rotate the questions then, and since Steve started, Marv, I will have you start with this question. What is your definition of a regional center, and do you believe Willmar fits this definition?
A regional center is someplace where people come to work, they come to shop, they come for their healthcare needs, and they come to basically improve the life that they have in a smaller community. and Wilmer fits that definition. If you take a look at our economic growth that we've had in the last 18 months, our growth has been exponential. When you take a look at the numbers from the EDC, Economic Development Commission, we have more people that come into Wilmer to work than leave Wilmer for work. Our population about doubles the adult in our population on a daily basis. And so that's one of the drivers. The other thing is if you take a look at Caris Health, Rice Hospital, and ACMC combined, if you take a look at that, they have numerous people that travel here for healthcare. We have a regional cancer center, but also in addition to that, we're a regional center in that we provide jobs opportunities for people to expand and do different things. So yes, we are a regional center. I think we're doing a great job as a regional center. I think we're looked up to in the region now. I was contacted by the League of Minnesota Cities. They want to come to Wilmer. They want to find out what happened in Wilmer and how did things change 4 years ago. And we're going to have probably about 40 mayors from across the state of Minnesota here in December to tell our story. So yes, we're a regional center, and I'm very proud of that.
Steve?
Yes, I piggyback off that. I definitely think we are a regional center. I think that there's a lot more room to grow. I think that we should be hosting major sporting events, but in order to do that, we got to have the facilities to have that, whether that be semifinals to go to state championships and whatnot. I think if we get the proper jobs in Wilmer, we'll grow. Without the jobs, we're going to stick with it. We've been almost the same population for the last 10, 14 years that I've been here. And I would love to see, and a lot of people would love to see Wilmer grow, but in order for that to happen, people need to make more money, and then everything else will fall into place.
Okay. Let me piggyback a little bit on that question. Let's talk about the homeless rate in Wilmer and low-cost housing. What, if anything, can the city do to address the homelessness in our community and lack of housing for lower income people? Steve?
Sure, I think that we are doing a lot of things for that. However, my take on, if we want to talk about low-income housing, is, it's a Band-Aid of a fix. I think I just want to get into it. What are we teaching our people? I think you need to be able to work. You got to have a good job in order to buy a house, in order to not end up homeless, not end up not being able to afford a house. I think adding the affordable housing it's a lot of people that I talk to at the barbershop, they feel like it's either welfare or a $12 an hour job to be able to afford a house or to afford housing. And I don't think it's teaching our citizens that this is all you're ever going to get unless you own a business. I'm one of the blessed ones. I own a business, so I'm grateful for that. But I want to see everybody else thrive. And I think having low-income housing is just putting a Band-Aid on things. It all ties right back to having good paying quality jobs.
Okay. Marv?
We all deserve decent housing. We all deserve a nice place to lay our head at night and to feel safe. And I'm sad to say that we have people in Wilmer that don't feel that way. So let's let that sink in just for a bit. And when we look at 15th Street flats and we're looking at 4 housing units that are for homeless people, and are going to give them the opportunity to go from homelessness to having an apartment, to hopefully having a house, that's what it's about, folks. It's about getting that step up so that you can get to the next level. When we take a look at our income level within the city of Wilmer, most families, the husband and wife both work. But when we look at the numbers, and you look at $12 an hour for a job as an example, and you take 2 families working that's $48,000 a year for income. So you can afford a home at $48,000 a year. It's not going to be a nice house, but you can afford a home in Wilmer for $48,000. So I want to do all we can to help people get out of homelessness, but we have to give them the opportunity. So it's a hand up, it's a lift up, it's an encouragement. What Family Promise is doing in our community is outstanding. But I was at an event last week, and they said that they have a number of people coming into the Family Promise program yet this month. Next month in October. And so we have to stop that process. And by doing that, we have to educate people on how they can be self-sufficient. The same as when I started out. I started out with a lower income job and I moved up through education to have a better job. Thank you.
Jay, can I say one thing, Jay?
Sure.
One of the problems that we're also facing, and I think Marv would agree with, is rent is outrageous. Like the rent is like 40–50% of what their income is. There's some of these guys that are for a 3-bedroom house are paying $1,200 for renting it. I don't know if there's anything that we can do about that. I think that's an open market, but it would be nice if we could have some say so over what people are charging.
Mark, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I just want to say that in free enterprise, a capitalist society, if you have a product that's in demand, it's worth more. And I would not speak against the landlords in our community. I believe that we need to fix jobs, and if the demand is for the housing to get that rate on rental, that's what they should get. But then at the same point, either as a city or the county through HRA, we should look at how we can help people get into housing. Again, people deserve safe and decent housing.
Okay. What specific experience or skills would you bring to the role of mayor? And Mark, that's for you.
You know, in my introductory comments, I didn't talk a lot about what I had done in the past, but I've worked in government since 1985. And some people can say that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think it's a good thing. I've worked with a number of different city administrators, I've worked with a number of different mayors, and I've worked with a number of different department directors. So I know the good things and the bad things that each bring to the table. So I have the experience, I've done the job for the last 4 years. I think if you take a look at what's happened in the last 18 months within the city of Willmar, I think we've done really great things. The first 24 months, it was troublesome. I mean, I don't need to tell people sitting in this room or watching on TV, the first 24 months of my term were troublesome. I had a council that wouldn't work with me. I had a council that didn't collaborate. I had a council that every time I brought something to the table, they worked against me. Now we have a council that's willing to look for the future of our community, willing to make things happen, and you're seeing that by job growth, you're seeing that in economic development, you're seeing that in increase in housing, you're seeing that in great things happening within our community. And so I have the experience to get the job done, and I can do it, and I'm blessed to be able to serve you.
Steve?
I'm just going to speak on behalf of the charter. I would do my job. I would make it a team thing in a weak mayor, strong council format. Supposed to supervise meetings, preside at all meetings, do the annual budget, keep council advised about finances, and be recognized as official head of the city. This is coming from dozens of people, and I want to talk real quick on the bullying thing that was up on the sign. And this isn't me. This is respected citizens that are coming to me, and they're feeling that people can't work with Mr. Kelvin. 5 city administrators have been fired, quit. Others have been retired early. Major micromanagement's going on. The council was in disarray and it still has issues. Councilmen and women are being overshadowed. Councilmen not wanting to speak out of fear. Councilmen don't interact with department heads because they're told not to.
But Steve, if I could interrupt, what skills and experience do you bring?
Sure, I'm talking about what I would not do. Can I finish?
Okay.
Okay. There's been even last couple the week here, there's been clashing between Mr. Kelvin and the city administrator. There's major power and control issues. I don't believe in that. I believe in team. I believe in working together, and I believe that no one person should have control over everything. And a lot of people at City Hall and people that work for the city feel like they're being bullied and they're being told what to do all the time. I don't know how to do that. I know how to work as a team. That's in my businesses. That's what I do.
And your skill set is because you're a business owner, or
my skill set
just explain that a little further for the voters.
No problem, Jan. For me, it's what does the city council want to do? They're the power. For the mayor, I'm just supposed to show up, make sure things are organized, and do the things like the charter says I'm supposed to do. Those are skills within himself.
And those are the ones that you have?
Yes.
Okay. Let me see. The next question will go, Steve, to you. what amenities and infrastructure need to be updated in Wilmer? And how would you go about paying for these things?
Right, I think that this goes down to priorities. What's the priorities? There's plenty of things in Wilmer. Or do you want me to speak on what some of the things that I think they are, Jen?
Yeah.
Obviously the flooding in a lot of people's houses, the stormwater thing, that's something that I'm big on because it touched home and it touched a lot of people in my neighborhood that they still come to me and talk to me about, can this be addressed? Another thing is Second Street streets are terrible. They've been terrible since 2004 when I first got here. There's a lot of things that we need to prioritize, and the money obviously will come out of the budget, should come from the budget or the money that we're getting from them from taxes. That should take care of that. A lot of these other bigger projects that we want to do, I'm not against them, but we need to prioritize them and figure out what's most important.
Okay, and Marv?
Could you repeat the question?
Let's see, what amenities and infrastructure needs need to be updated in Wilmer, and how would you go about paying for these?
Well, this is probably one time I'm going to agree with Steve, but flooding in streets are a problem in Wilmer. In 2009, the council removed every street project within the city of Wilmer. It was not a street project. In 2013, they removed all the overlay projects. That puts the city dramatically behind, because now if you take the dollars that we have to go forward and try to improve and cover those expenses, that's a problem. So we need to improve our streets. We need to improve our stormwater. This year, the budget has over $1.3 million in addressing stormwater issues in Southwest Wilmer. That's something that, working with the Public Works Director and the City Administrator, we put in the budget. And that came from the council in the retreat that said this is what we need to do. So that's what we did. In the 2019 budget, there's $100,000 to look at stormwater issues down in the Menards area. We also need things to do. If we're going to increase jobs, we're going to increase economic development, we're going to increase things to do, we have to have reasons for people to move to Wilmer. And what happens is, if you have those things to do, people will come. Because people today can work any place. They don't have to work in an office building. They don't have to work in a set area. You can work from home on a lot of projects. And a lot of people do that. So I'd improve those three areas. I'm sorry, the additional thing is parks. We are putting money into our parks. We have $100,000 in this year's budget and $100,000 in next year's budget to bring our neighborhood parks back. And those are things that were brought up at the retreat. And what I bring forward is the things that the council tells me. I make them a priority. I put them in the budget. I go to the city administrator, the finance director, and each individual department director to make that happen, all at the direction of the council.
Thank you. Let's stick along the budget planning mode here. And Marv, this will go to you first. You've already kind of alluded to it. Budget planning is a big role for the mayor. Will you rely on past money management skills, or do you utilize city staff?
So the question is really, what's your experience in preparing large budgets? The city of Wilmer's overall budget is about $41 million. That includes all different areas of our budget. The last 3 Tuesday nights, we've had public meetings down at the fire station to talk and share with the community what those budgets are. So what I'll bring to the table is my experience in managing a budget, how best to manage that budget, working beside the city administrator and the finance director to prepare those budgets, to present a budget that the council can be proud of. The budgets that have been presented the last 3 years that I presented budgets, the council has overwhelmingly supported them. Last year, there was an adjustment to the budget because after the retreat, they said they wanted additional dollars put in parks and stormwater, and we did that. So I used my experience and also my lifelong history in operating managed budgets. I never once overspent the budget in the entire time that I was in a leadership position.
Steve?
Jen, can you please repeat the question?
Budget planning is a big role, a big part for the mayor. Will you rely on past money management skills or utilize city staff?
A combination of both. I would definitely ask a lot of questions and utilize the city staff. Ask them, like, what do they think? I believe that 5, 6 minds are better than one. As a business owner, I've made some mistakes, and I've made some things that have gone well. And a lot of things that I learned is if you don't have a budget set, mistakes will just keep happening. So I definitely would utilize the city staff, and that they obviously have a lot more experience with that. And I would ask questions, and I would educate myself on understanding the budget as the mayor.
Okay. This will be a fun question, I think. What are the positives and negatives of food trucks in Wilmer? That was a topic that's new. So let's see, Steve, you'll answer that first. The positives and negatives of food trucks in Wilmer.
Sure. The positives is giving people the opportunity to own a business. You know, like I think that a lot of people have a dream or a goal that maybe that's what they want to do, or they want to be in the restaurant business. And it's also a lot cheaper to do a food truck and to go park somewhere than it is to open up a restaurant or whatnot. I think there's only a couple in town, and both of those guys, I think, do a pretty good job. I haven't seen any negatives outside of there possibly could be, depending upon where they're located, traffic could get congested. I know that over by where my barbershop's at times things get really tight in there with other, like Taco John's and whatnot, other restaurants in there. And if one was to park there, I could see things really getting congested. We definitely don't want no accidents and whatnot. I know that I did see something that we're trying to figure out how to, make some rules and laws on how we're going to expand of those kind of things. But I think it's definitely a good thing because it gives somebody a chance to own a business and do what they want with their life.
So other than traffic issues, you're not seeing?
Well, I think that, the health department, the inspector and stuff would have to make sure that the food is cooked well and, and up to code and stuff like that. And I think that Chris Winnish does a great job with that, with checking on things for that. But other than that, I don't see a lot of problems with it.
Okay. Marv, you smiled when I read that question.
Well, that's because it's been in front of the council and we've talked about it for the last 2
Now
years.
you know we read the paper.
Exactly, right. And this is something that I brought to the table, actually. I had a business that wanted to bring a food truck into Wilmer, and they wanted to know what the process was. And I went to the city administrator and I said, what's the process for a food truck? And he said, Marv, we really don't have one, but we'll develop one. And so this is an entrepreneur trying to do something good and build a business. This particular vendor that has the food truck that came to me, they ran successful businesses in Wilmer, but they're just going in a different direction. Spurs Restaurant, so we've had it downtown, and I look at, there's a few negatives, but majority of them are all positives. We put a very reasonable fee structure in place that the council has yet to adopt. We haven't adopted it totally yet, but it'll be in front of the council to adopt that fee schedule, $150 for a year. But I just got to sign it. I've only got 30 seconds. We're going fast here, but so let me talk a little bit about the negatives. The negatives are quality of food, food temperature, and then the problem with NFPA has standards that talk about food trucks. So that's the fire chief and the fire marshal have to regulate that. And the reason for that is that when they have a problem, they have a big problem. And so it's just to regulate that. So our ordinance, it's a lot of pages, but the other thing that this ordinance does is it allows an appeal process, which we haven't had on other permits. And so this is a good problem.
So many hoops yet.
Many hoops yet to jump through, right? We have the public hearing, which will be happening on next Monday night.
All right, very good. All right, Marv, this question will be for you first. What plans do you have for our downtown? Will it include city office building and auditorium?
Holy buckets. Is the tape rolling? Ms. Dahl, you guys know how to pick good questions that are current in our downtown.
Thank you.
A vibrant downtown is the answer to every community. And Wilmer has a vibrant downtown. I mentioned Spurs Restaurant just a little bit ago. If you haven't been to Spurs, go to Spurs. They do great work down there. They've got a great, I like their gyros. And so just a little plug there, commercial plug. Is that okay?
Well, Ivanka Trump got in trouble on that. But go ahead.
Exactly. Okay. Well, I'm not Ivanka. So, but so we've got some really exciting things that are going to be in front of the council. We had a meeting last week with the local municipal utilities. Municipal utilities are responsible for the streetlights downtown, and so you'll be seeing some exciting things coming down the pipe with that. Our public works director and city administrator are working on that beside the municipal utilities to bring a new look to downtown. The current ones we have down there are rusted and they need some improvements. So I think that our downtown is vibrant. I think a lot of great things are happening. It doesn't look like when I grew up, my dad had a store downtown. It doesn't look the same, but we've got a great downtown. And will City Hall be downtown? If I have my way about it, we'll have City Hall downtown. The auditorium, of course, needs to stay. It's a historic building, but we need to fix the cracked mural on the front of the building.
Okay. Steve?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure will. What plans do you have for our downtown? Will it include city office building and the auditorium?
I definitely, to answer that question, I definitely believe the city auditorium needs to stay there. I have a ton of basketball players that I talk to that they love the nostalgia down there, the Hoosiers basketball type feel inside that. A lot of people play noon ball. And the city offices and the city hall definitely needs to stay downtown too. I think that we could even focus on some of the pre-existing buildings that are down there, possibly turning one of them into a city hall. I think that if we work together as a team and get other new businesses down there, it could thrive and we could become, I was just talking to, I don't know if you guys, a lot of you should know Jordan Smith today, Cleveland Indians, who came from Wilmer. And he said that he loved, when he was on the road, he loved to go to the downtowns, and a lot of downtowns like in Sioux Falls is thriving, and how he would love to see that for his Wilmer as well. I think what has to happen is a lot of business owners need to open up other businesses down there. I've even thought of like, what could I put down there to help get downtown where it should be?
Okay. What criteria, and let me see, this will be to Steve first. What criteria would you use when deciding to break a council tie vote?
Okay. I spoke on this last time we had the forum, and we talked about, I believe it was a city hall thing where the city council had a tie 4-4, and what would you do if that ever happened? I recant what I said before, which was, focus on what the people want, focus on what the city council, and put it back on them, because I believe that, the way the charter's set up and the way everybody wants is if that tie happens, you have that power to make that decision. They're counting on you to make that decision. And sometimes you got to make a tough decision as a leader, and that decision should be made by you, whether it's a yes or a no.
Huh? And you've had to break a few.
I've had to break a few, yes. On critical issues that will divide the council, if the tie is broken, I think you have to be very careful on that vote. And that's why I didn't make the vote on the location for the city hall. Other votes I've taken, I've broken the tie to either pass it or reject it. I did that within the last 2 months. There was one that I did not vote on and said that the motion did not pass. So it's something you don't take lightly. It's something that at the moment you're sitting there and you kind of have the feel for the council. And again, like I said last time when we talked at the forum we had, when the three of us were up here, I just felt that on the city hall issue, it would have divided the council and would have driven a wedge that wouldn't have been repairable. And I was not willing to do that to this city. And so there are times when, yes, you can break that tie, but other times, if you're going to divide the council, you don't want to do that.
Alrighty. Let's see. Marv, this question for you first. As you go door to door campaigning, what is the biggest issue you're hearing in the community?
Right now, the biggest thing I'm hearing is economic development. People want jobs. People want things, they're concerned about how do we get good jobs into town. The other thing I'm hearing is childcare. We're in a childcare crisis in Wilmer, Minnesota, folks. There's over 900 spots that we have to fill for young families to work. Moms and dads can't go to work if they can't find somebody to watch their kids. The rules that are being put on by the state legislature and the federal people that they're pushing down to Candido Lake County to enforce on our local child care providers is an absolute disgrace. It's government overreach. It's telling people what they have to do when they know what they're doing. They should stay out of it. So those are the top two issues: economic development and child care.
Steve, what are you hearing?
Sure, Jen. The top two things that I hear about is good paying jobs. So it seems like it's always a big topic. And then transparency with city government and its citizens. Speaking on the jobs things, good jobs creates being able to afford housing, creates economy, creates business owners are happier because more people are spending money. And a lot of people want to be able to go out and spend money and support these businesses instead of watching them close down in Wilmer and leave. But they need to be able to make more money. I don't have all the answers for that. I know I speak on it a lot because I make good money. But I want to see everybody else make good money in town too. But without some better quality jobs, it's not going to happen. And the transparency thing, I'm not saying that the city government doesn't do a great job at getting through to the citizens of Wilmer. But the problem is that we need to find a way to truly show them like what is going on. Some stuff we don't know about. Like there's a couple businesses come to town that people don't, property's been sold, this and that, and they're like, so what is coming? What is going on? And I think we should just do a better job at explaining to them what's going on with the city. And I think to the city government's defense, I think the citizens also need to pay attention more. They need to focus on it more, care about it more. And and one plug too is if you're going to complain about issues and whatnot, you better be getting up and vote because last I checked, only half the city of Wilmer votes.
Well, thank you. That's our plug, but we appreciate it. When talking about young families and daycare and people moving in, what does Wilmer offer to attract and retain young families and seniors to continue to want to reside in Wilmer? And I've lost track. I believe that, Steve.
The biggest thing for the kids and for the city, the seniors, is plenty of parks. I mean, we've done a really, really good job at parks, but I think that we need to focus on the good and make it even better. What else can we do? And I know that there's a lot of things in the mix with the Invest in Wilmer and different things to where our youth have something to do especially during the winter. With one thing I hear about a ton is like, Steve, there's nothing to do in this town. There's nothing to do, and a lot of it is coming from that 16 to 24. And I think that with the Invest in Wilmer thing, I think that's something that we're working on with field houses and stuff like that. But definitely the parks. Parks are great for us.
Okay. Marv?
Every morning I get the answer to that question. My wife on her phone has a calendar. And on her phone, she has that she starts work at 8 o'clock in the morning. And the phone goes off in the morning at about 7 minutes to 8. And it says, your traffic to get to your job to work for my wife is 7 minutes. And traffic is light. We don't have traffic jams in Wilmer. But you know what? We have a lot more than that. Did you see the sunset last night? Did you see the sunrise this morning? If you're in a city, you don't see that. Did you look out over Robbins Island? Did you take a look at the playground, what's happening out there? Did you look at the advancements that's happening out there? Did you look at some of our parks, which Steve talked about earlier? You can go sit at a park and watch the sunrise. You can go to another park, a different park, and watch the sunset. We've got a lot of great things happening. We have good internet service. We have good local services. It's being done in a cost-effective manner. Our budget is balanced for the city. The city of Wilmer is fiscally secure. The city of Candido County is fiscally secure. And so we have a lot of really good things happening. So Wilmer is a great place to expand your business. And we know through history, talking with economic development folks, the way we're going to bring more jobs and good paying jobs to Wilmer is to expand the ones we currently have. And so we have to invest in our local businesses. And we do that. And we do a great job.
Okay, now I'm going to press you guys a little bit. In all the city rec planning, how much is focused on seniors and what plans might you have? And that was part of that first question or that last question I asked you. We hear a lot about parks and playgrounds and reading pools, swimming pools. but we have a growing senior population and they vote. So what would you offer them? And Marv, I believe it's you first.
You know, Jan, I didn't intentionally dodge that one, but seeing you brought it back, I guess I'm going to have to clearly answer it. So my wife has been involved in the senior population her entire career. I've worked with seniors the majority of my career. And yes, I do know that seniors vote. So what would I do for our seniors? We need a community center that includes a senior component to that our senior population can go to and feel comfortable at. It has good, easy access. My vision of that is a nice view, easy to get in and out. It has a nice place where you can have a cup of coffee, play foot in hand or hand in foot, however you say it, whichever one's first. You can do all those fun things. You can get together and just visit. You know, as I get a little bit older, and I retired a bit over a year ago, and as I'm thinking, I mean, I just like to sit down and have a cup of coffee. Dennis Anderson and I had a cup of coffee at the Goodness Coffee Shop this morning. We go around the community and we do that. So we need to improve the things that we do for our community and for our seniors specifically, and they need a new community center. And I will work to make that happen.
That would include activities and physical activity kind of
Right.
things.
And so
not just drinking coffee.
Correct. And so yeah, we have the dance floor. I was talking with somebody, wouldn't it be great to take a historic dance floor someplace and bring it in the room or install it so we have a new dance floor? You try dancing on the dance floor out there? Well, I can't dance, but the thing of it is that they need a nice dance floor. The dance floor they have out there is parquet that is, was put in when the Alps came. And I think that was in the 80s. I mean, we haven't improved that building. So we need to give them a building they're proud of. And there's a lot of great things to do for seniors in our community.
Yes.
Including volunteering and voting.
Yes. Steve, what do you have in mind for focusing on seniors?
Sure. As a lot of the older barbershops closed down in town, I started picking up a lot of the older folks, the older gentlemen come to my barbershop and get haircuts. And I'm able to cut their hair and listen to what they want. And one of the biggest things that they talk about is the community center and that how they want it to stay where it's at, whether it needs to be fixed, which I was informed today that it's almost beyond repair. So it needs to be redone, but it should stay there. I think there are a lot of other things that I could point out that are here for seniors. You got both, Valley Golf Course and Eagle Creek are both kept up very, very well. The gone fishing thing, but big thing is ask them, like, what do you guys want? What do you guys want, and what can I do for you, or what can we do as a team to create some of those different things that you guys want to do? And I also would like to, a little advice to the younger people. A lot of the wisdom and advice that I get from people are from the older folks. I personally love sitting down with our seniors and talking to them. After all, they are the ones that built this city, and they're the forefathers that push things along to give opportunities for people like myself.
Okay. Well, I would be remiss if we did not talk about streets. Some of Willmar's residential streets are in poor shape. Are there any long-range plans for repairing them? If so, how will these projects be financed? Now, Marv, you've already talked a little bit about streets and topping. So now we want to know, how will they be financed? And Steve, that goes to you first.
I think that streets is one of the number one priorities. It's what I hear about a lot. There's a lot of people, when they complain about things, they talk about, well, so-and-so streets, I bet you their streets are nice. People on the southwest side, their streets are nice. The east side, they're not nice. And I don't think that that's totally what we're focused on, that we get better treatment if we're over in a certain area in town. I just think that different projects, priorities get mixed up, and then we're focusing on the wrong things at the wrong time. I think streets are the number one thing, and obviously that money would come from taxes. That's where we got to pull from, and prioritize what we should do first, second, third, fourth, and I think streets should be the number one thing, especially Second Street. I hear about it a lot on Southeast.
Okay, very good. You said that word, taxes.
Yeah, that's where it's at.
That's what
we need to put.
Marv.
Well, 2nd Street Southeast was supposed to be reconstructed in 2009 and the council didn't approve the project. That's why it's not done. People don't want to talk about that, but that's the fact. When you delay projects and you don't do them when the city engineer tells you to do the project and you don't do it, you're going to have problems, folks. And you're going to have bad streets. And that's where it takes a leader like a good city administrator and a good mayor to step up to the plate and say, you know what, we need to do this and we need to get it done. And this is the reason we have to do it. The city engineer has about 112 pages where it talks about the conditions of our streets. 26 pages of that includes things that have to be done now. Okay? So are we going to be able to raise taxes to do that? I'm proposing, and in the budget have proposed an increase in the levy of 5%. That's only going to bring in $275,000. The city engineer at our last meeting told us it was $2 million to do a mile of streets. I don't know how much you're going to raise taxes to pay for that, but it's going to be a lot. That's not the answer. We have to go back and we have to relook at local government aid. We have to look at state aid and federal aid, how that project all comes together, and we need to find a new funding source. And that funding source may be a franchise fee that goes on for streets to pay for streets. We're so far behind now. Drastic measures take drastic measures to fix.
All right. What ideas, Marv, do you have for integrating new citizens and recently arrived immigrants into our community?
You know, I've worked a lot on this and I've taken a lot of criticism on this particular issue. But last Thursday night, I was down at the Goodness Coffee Shop and we had a language and friendship meal. And I sat at a table with a gentleman who taught in the local university in Honduras, was a computer engineer, and his wife had a business where they manufactured shirts in Honduras. They left Honduras to come here because they were told if they stayed there, they'd be killed. We know that people living in refugee camps over in East Africa do not have the opportunities we have here. When I talk to our newcomers that are coming into our community, I hear nothing but positive things happening within our community. The other thing I hear is they want to work. I have yet, in my almost 4 years of being mayor for the city of Willmar, had a Caucasian person come into my office and say, I want you to go to my employer so I can work more than 40 hours a week. I have that regularly happen with our East African population and our Spanish-speaking populations. So we need to look at our future, we need to look at where we're going, and we need to empower people to do good things. When you look at the minority-owned businesses within the city of Willmar, it's an astronomical number. And that is what's going to change, that's what's going to change the story of Willmar. And that's why people want to come to Willmar and they want to hear about it. That's why the mayors want to come to Willmar, because they want to find out what are you doing in Willmar and how are you making it work. And that's part of our story.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. What ideas do you have for integrating new citizens and recently arrived immigrants into our community?
Sure. First and foremost is to make them feel welcomed. I get the blessing of a lot of people see the barbershop, so they stop in, and I get sometimes we service new people in the city, and instead of talking about all the bad that's going on, let's talk about the good and build on that and make it even better. Because if I showed up to a city and we're talking about all the struggles, any of the struggles we're going through or the bad that we're going through, it would put a bad taste in my mouth. I might want to run away. So I would focus on telling them about all the positives, all the goods, providing them with a good job. Don't set them up for failure with the $12 an hour jobs that are plentiful. Encourage them and then get involved, have them get involved in things like invite them to different programs. I know I stopped into the Vision 2040 a couple weeks back, and I know that they work hard to bring those people, bring all different cultures together and talk and learn from each other. And all those are good things, but they should also want to get involved. It's a lot of times people in our communities tend to segregate themselves from each other. I've even done this, and I've tore down some fences to where I want to be around everybody, not just the people that are struggling. I want to be around business owners and other people that wanted better and just try to encourage each other and overall watch the whole city prosper.
All right, good. Well, this is going to be the final question, and Steve, we'll have you start. What question has not been asked that you feel you would like to speak to?
One of the questions, the number one question I thought that would get talked about today is the local option sales tax, which is a hot topic, and a lot of people are trying to figure out if that's going to be a good thing or not. My focus is for 14 years I've listened to kids. I watch kids grow up. I watch kids get married and have kids. And the number one conversation is it's just not enough to do, especially in the winter time. With trying to put together the rec program and try to put it together a field house, those are great things for our young people, and even me. I would love to go and do something like that as a grown adult. I've spent a lot of time with a lot of the coaches, and I looked around at other communities. You got Alexandria, Hutchinson, and they got different programs and different things to where people have a lot more things to do. I don't know. I'm trying to look into more and get more feedback on everything else that entails in that local option sales tax, because I know it's got a lot of things in there. But it comes down to priorities, and I think one of the biggest priorities in our town should be having things for people to do, because that'll keep people here. A lot of parents, a lot of my neighbors that are retired people, a lot of their kids all moved away. And I think that's sad. I think it's sad because of what's happening is they don't have enough things to do in town. We don't offer enough things for them to stay. So I think we need to focus on bringing those type of amenities to the town so people do stay. And so, I want to see my kids stay, live, and raise grandkids here. So that's one of the biggest questions that I thought would be asked that was not asked.
Thank you. Marv, would you like me to repeat that and not stumble? No, you know.
I know. I guess we're going to agree twice. I thought that you would ask the question about the Invest in Wilmer group. And maybe that was a soft lob. So what does the Invest in Wilmer group, how did it come about? The Invest in Wilmer group is a group of 3 individuals that came together and said, we want to do something different for the city of Wilmer. One of the individuals was involved when the last local option sales tax did not pass, communicated regularly with the council and said, hey, I want you to consider this. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about the other thing? And I encouraged him to get a group of people together, come back and ask the council of that. And so that's what happened. So Matt Dawson got together with 2 other individuals that they're spearheading this project. And the projects there's 6 of them. One is a recreation event center for $10 million, recreation fields for $6 million, improvements at Robbins Island Park for $3 million, Swanson Field for $2 million, stormwater improvements for $7 million, and a new community center for $2 million. The community center was added by the council. They had presented to us 5 times, and at the 5th meeting, a council member said, I think we should have a community center. I think it should be added to the question. They added that question. So they've been very responsive to the council. They've been very responsive to the citizens, and good things are going to happen. I've said I'm going to stay neutral on the local option sales tax issue, but Invest in Wilmer will make good things and great things happen for the city of Wilmer. And we can educate, but we can't spend money on it. So that's why you haven't seen the city spending money on it, because that's state statute. But that will make good things happen.
Very good. Well, they have had their fingers in this pie, so maybe the question wasn't asked, but yes, we relied on some of their expertise. We're done. So now we're going to start with our closing statements, and Marv, we'll begin with you.
First off, again, let me thank the League of Women Voters, Ms. Dahl. Your questions were very pointed, and you kept us on task. Thank you for that. The last 4 years has really been a joy for my wife and I serving the city of Wilmer. It hasn't all been rosy. It hasn't all been fun. But at the end of the day, we get up in the morning, we're pleased to serve the citizens of Wilmer. We are such a blessed community. I really respectfully request your vote so I continue the job that I've started doing for the city of Wilmer. So we've had a lot of questions. You see there's a clear difference between Mr. Pepin and myself. And you need to take a look. Do you like what you've seen in the last 18 months? Do you think Wilmer's headed in the right direction? If you like what you've seen and you think Wilmer's headed in the right direction, that's a vote for Marv Calvin. I appreciate your support on November 6th.
Steve?
Yes, I want to end the way I started and talk about why we're here. I'm here to represent the people. I'm here for each and every citizen of Wilmer. My focus is they come to me. I take a consensus of the whole situation, and then I want to bring it to the table. If I was the mayor, I would stick strictly to the charter. I would not overstep my bounds. One big thing that I want to encourage all our citizens is to please get out and vote. Actually, even if you don't want to vote for me, just you owe it to yourself, to your family, to this city, and to all the servicemen and women that are fighting for our rights to vote. To see 45–50% of the town vote, I think in 2014, it just we need to do better than that. I thank the League of Women Voters. I'm grateful to be here today, and I respectfully ask for your vote. And if you vote for me, you're voting for yourself, because I'm here for the people only. I don't have any other motive.
Well, thank you both. It was really a pleasure to ask questions and hear your responses. Also really thrilled how you're pushing voter participation on November 6th, because that is so extremely important. Many of these leaguers here today were at the Wilmer Library where we were registering voters, and there were a couple of us out at Ridgewater College. So we appreciate the push on voter registration and voting. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, now we're going to shift quickly, fast, and in a great way to our two candidates that are running for Ward 2 City Council. This seat is currently held by Ron Christensen, who chose not to run for re-election. There are also 3 other city council members who are seeking re-election but are running unopposed. So they have chosen not to be here tonight because there's no competition there. And so that was a nice thing that they did. They are Andrew Plowman, Ward 1, Rick Fagerly, Ward 3, and Audrey Nelson, Ward 4. Now, the same opening will apply. You have your 2-minute opening, a minute and a half to answer questions, and then a minute to close. The interesting thing in getting prepared for this was that when you go from mayor to city council to mayor, some of the questions are going to be the same. So if we see the audience start to file out, I suppose it's because the questions are the same. However, we are anticipating some different answers because of the position that you are seeking on the Wilmer City Council. So first off, we will begin by hearing from Vicki Davis.
All right. Well, thank you for the chance to be here. I appreciate it. First of all, I was born in Austin, Minnesota, and I grew up just north of there in Blooming Prairie with my parents and 2 brothers and 2 sisters. My husband, Chris, and I have been married for almost 34 years, and we have 11 children. The oldest is 33, the youngest is 12. And we have 4 grandchildren that just moved back to Wilmer, so that's fun. And we moved here in 1990, and before that, we lived in a couple of other small towns, and we lived in Hibbing, we lived in Austin, but we moved here and it felt like home. We really like it here. We're small business owners, entrepreneurs. We own the Goodness downtown. We love being there. We love the diversity. It's just so much fun to see all the different people come in every day. And I feel like I see things as a small business owner that would help me on the council. So that's why I'm here.
And now Christina Nelson.
Thank you, Jan, and thank you so much to the League of Women Voters for facilitating this process. That's really quite important. My name is Christina Nelson, and I'm running for City Council because I just love this city. I love Wilmer for the rich place it is and for what it can be. I live here with my husband and my 2 children. My daughter Ava, she attends Kennedy Elementary, and my son David just can't wait to join her next year. Wilmer is the city where my children will grow up and graduate, and I intend to make sure Wilmer is where they will come back to raise families of their own. I have a degree in electrical engineering and work as a web programmer and developer. I'm a critical thinker, a problem solver, and planner. I can help design a vision for where we all see Wilmer 20 years from now, but I can also study and understand everyday decisions that will lead us into that future in a positive way. Over the years, I've made and continue to make deep connections with many people in Wilmer. I made connections with other young parents from my involvement in Wilmer Moms and Kennedy PTSA. I partnered with friends from the Somali community at the CIC, Islamic Society, and most importantly, over many conversations and coffee. I'm a singer and musician, and I have connections with our many community arts programs, such as West Central Singers. As a pastor's spouse and person of faith, I've made connections with many churches in this city and meet with different congregations regularly. We're so rich in our diversity, and yet I always hear the same thing. There's something special about Wilmer. We are a city with so much to offer our own community and the rest of the country as well. Wilmer is a reflection of how our country is currently developing. I strongly believe that Wilmer can be a shining example of how a diverse city can learn from each other, seek to understand each other, and work together for common good. Our city council should not only encourage this, but they should be a catalyst for this mindset. As a city council person, I will work tirelessly to achieve that vision.
Great, thank you. The first question, Christina, will go to you, and it is, what have you done, and I hate doing this right after you've given your opening, but what specifically have you done to prepare yourself to be on the city council?
Thank you for that question. So my journey to run for office actually started over a year ago. I was selected to take part in the Wilmer Community Assembly. It was an intense 8-day workshop with 32 of us, citizens of Wilmer, where we dove deep into our local government and how it functioned and researched different ways that we could potentially change things about how our government works and how outreach works to the community. That really inspired me, and I loved what I learned there and wanted to see a lot of the recommendations go through. So I started watching the city council meetings, first just on YouTube, and then started attending as many meetings as I could. I've had conversations with as many community leaders as I can find and have really spent time listening and thinking on the issues from the past and also the current issues, and really thinking about where we can go in the future.
Thank you. Vicki?
Well, I became interested last winter, and so I started meeting with other city leaders and attending the meetings, and then I would go home and do some research, lots of research about all the different topics. The League of Minnesota Cities website, that's been really helpful. And then whenever there's a meeting and, you know, I don't know something, I'll go home and research and study about that.
So you've done your homework, both of you. Great. Vicki, question for you first now. What plans do you have for downtown? Being a downtown business owner, you must have some. And will it include the city office building and the city auditorium?
Yeah, I definitely believe they should be downtown. I believe downtown is the heart of the city. And so it makes sense for City Hall to be there. And the auditorium is a beautiful building, and that should definitely be restored and saved. And downtown is such a great place. You know, it's so diverse. And we had the Taste of Downtown a couple of years ago, and people had so much fun, and they didn't even know that all of the businesses they went into were there until they attended that event. There's so many great people, and my hope is that we could make it a beautiful place that would draw people to come there. I want people to feel safe there. I feel safe there. You know, we just need people to learn that it's safe.
Christina, same question to you. What plans do you have for downtown?
Well, I've lived in communities where they've had downtowns that have been frankly abandoned, and it's a very sad fate for any city. And I'm grateful that we have a downtown in Wilmer that is thriving and alive and has really been revitalized. And I see it, it's happened over the years that I've been here. It's growing and growing. My favorite restaurants, my favorite coffee shops, my favorite shoe shop is right downtown. I just love being there. I do believe that a city office, city hall, should take place in the heart of the city, and that is the downtown area. I would really like to see it stay there, along with the auditorium. That is a treasure that we should be proud of and take good care of. And as somebody who was a newcomer not quite so long ago, I can appreciate the value of a comprehensive hub for city business. And I really see the talk of building a new city hall or restoring the city offices as an opportunity to really create one central location for our city business, for public meetings, for city council meetings, for any city business that needs to happen. Everyone knows where to go.
Okay. One of the things you both talk about are the many activities that we have in the city of Wilmer. And I know that both the mayor candidates talked about this too, but I do worry a little bit with the West Central Tribune now no longer publishing a paper on Monday. And I'm wondering if you have any ideas, Christina, we'll start with you first, on other ways that the city council could communicate with its citizens.
Well, communication is actually a pretty strong issue in my campaign that I've been talking about. I really think that there's been a disconnect between the city council and government and the community, and I think that needs to be rectified. The old days of showing up at 5 o'clock on a Monday to a public meeting, to a city council meeting, it's non-existent anymore. There isn't the time and the availability. Most people are just unable to do it. There needs to be more outreach. I think we can utilize assets like social media. I know the city of Wilmer has made efforts to use Facebook and YouTube more. I think we can expand on that. I think we can make the community more aware that that's there. I think we can work more with live videos and getting responses. And I think we need to think outside the box on just how our public meetings happen when we do have them. Make them more accessible, make them more often, and make them more of a intimate conversation rather than an intimidating speak at the podium sort of format.
Vicki?
Yeah, I feel like currently the city is trying to be more transparent. I mean, I'm seeing some videos online, social media, but it could be improved. And I feel like the meeting is intimidating to stand up at the podium. It was, I don't like to do it.
You're doing well.
Yeah, I agree with everything Christina said, really, for that. So,
Okay. Vicki, we'll start with you. Give examples of how you have been able to work productively with those who do not share your opinions.
Oh, well, I have 11 kids and they don't always agree with me. So it's, I don't know. For me, I feel like we don't have to always agree. The key is to still get along with each other. That's the main thing, is that we still get along. We're all a community. We're neighbors and we should be friends. So.
Christina, what ideas do you have?
Sorry, could you repeat the question in full?
Sure. Give examples of how you've been able to work productively with those who do not share your opinions.
Well, that's always a challenge, and there's such a divisive nature in our politics today. There's no hiding that, and things get very personal very quickly. I don't want to make judgments on past things, past decisions. But I will say that my job as a person on city council is to do the business of the city and to work collectively with people. Now, when we have difference of opinion, I tend to look at it from looking at someone's intention, not their, look at the intention first. And I believe that we have the same intention. In this case, it would be what's best for the city of Lynn. We both want that. We may have different views of how to get there. So I want to listen first and understand. And that's what I've done at times when I worked as a web programmer on a team on different mindsets of how to make code work, which that gets into the weeds a little bit. But essentially, I would get into these arguments, and I would assume this mindset of listening first before responding.
Okay. I'm going to go back to that recreation deal. What does Willmar offer to attract and retain young families and seniors to continue to want to reside in Willmar? Christina. Yes.
What we do have, well, I remember when I first moved here to Willmar, I was ecstatic because I went to the Chamber of Commerce's event calendar. We moved here in the summer, and lo and behold, every single weekend, there was somewhere for me to go, someplace for me to take my kid. And I just love that as a young mom. I love our ECFE program. I utilized that heavily when my children were smaller than they are now. And of course, we have our parks. I'm lucky enough to live right by 3 parks plus Kennedy Elementary that I can take my kids to on a regular basis. And not to mention our wonderful beaches right in Willmar, and also just 15 minutes away. There's 2 or 3 others thanks to our wonderful county parks. For seniors, I know we do have a community center, and I know there's been some wonderful work done to revitalize the community center and programming and to find unique things to offer our seniors. I think we can do a lot more with that. There's no question we need a new community center, one that's been reimagined for what it's become and not what it was before. I think we could take a page from places like Bethesda. They've done some work working with some intergenerational play. I think that's a great idea. I think the community center could piggyback off of that and offer more things like that for seniors.
Okay, Vicki?
Yeah, the community center, I feel, is very important, and I do think we need a new one. And I feel like what I would love to see at the community center would be some multi-generational things where the seniors are doing things together with our youth. I know my children don't have grandparents here, and a lot of children don't have grandparents here, and how neat that would be if we could combine them and they could gain the benefits of doing things together. The young generation could learn from the older. That's what I would like to see.
Kind of along that same line then, what are your views on the location? And Vicki, this will go to you first, of the community center on Highway 71. Is that seem to be a good location for you, or do you have someplace else in mind?
I think it's a good location. I mean, I feel like right now, the seniors that I've talked to, they can get there fine. They definitely don't want it farther away.
Okay, Christina?
Actually, the first event I wanted to go to at the community center, I think it was a Halloween event a few years ago, and I hadn't been to the community center, and honestly, I had no idea where it was, and I had to ask 3 or 4 different people, where is this place? I just want to get my kids some candy. But now that I know where it is, and I've heard from the seniors that do utilize the community center that they want to keep it there, and I think we should respect that. I do think we could do some more to kind of advertise better signage, perhaps make it clear where it is to get to it for newcomers.
Okay. In your view, and Christina, this will go to you first, what is the greatest challenge facing citizens in the city of Willmar?
No question that the top 2 in my mind are housing and childcare. Housing is hard to come by around here. If you need to rent, it's hard to first of all find an apartment, much less afford one. I was looking up some numbers, and I found 52% of the renters in Willmar are considered overburdened, meaning they pay over 30% of their income in rent here. And we need to work on that. It's not just low income, it's people that are professionals that still can't afford, such as teachers. And I've heard stories of people that have moved to other towns like Olivia, where the rent is less there. So they live there, work here. They'd much rather live here. I think we need to work with partners, work with other companies to come in and create some competition in the area to bring some rent prices down. I think we need to look into some more low-income housing with that. The childcare is another issue. There, as again, a young mom, I chose to leave my job for a time because it didn't make sense for me to pay $50 a day for my baby to be watched at childcare. And I think we need to find some more opportunities and competition for that.
Thank you, Vicki. Challenges facing citizens in Wilmer.
Yeah, well, housing definitely. I just had someone I know move back to town and they couldn't find anywhere to live, to rent. So they had to hurry up and buy a house. They were rushed. And so I know that's an issue. And also streets, that's the one I hear at the coffee shop every day. People are telling me how the streets are bad and we need to fix the streets. So.
Okay. Vicki, this one will be for you first. Describe how you would view your role as a city council member dealing with city employees.
Well, I feel like they work for the city. Right, that's a tough one.
Sorry about that.
I wouldn't feel like I'm a boss or anything. Right. I guess I don't know how to answer that right now.
Okay, that's fair. Christina?
I suppose I would have to look at it as more of a supervisory role. I wouldn't say I was a boss, but the city employees would be following my direction as a member of the council. I would like to see it as a partnership, however. Again, and I would like to build relationship with the employees of Wilmer. And, I think many things they do a wonderful job, and I have great respect and I appreciate the work that they do. I would like to be able to learn from them as a new city council member, and hopefully we can develop a relationship and have some back and forth on ideas of where we can progress further and to hear what they need and how the council can serve them.
Great. Christina, this is for you. Since this is a nonpartisan office running the city council, how will you work to keep politics out of the job?
Well, yeah, I actually am very grateful that this is a nonpartisan position. And it gives me the opportunity to look at city issues as city issues. Getting proper streets, taking care of our flooding, that's not a liberal or conservative issue. That's a Wilmer issue. And we need to hear all voices and all perspectives to make that challenge, to fix our streets and make that a reality. I do not feel as a person on the city council that I'm beholden to the DFL or to the Republican Party. I'm beholden to Ward 2 and to the city of Wilmer. And I will hear any and all perspectives to fix the city issues.
Vicki?
Yeah, I don't like politics, so that's easy for me. Yeah, I think being on the city council is just all about taking care of the people in the city and doing the things that are best for them. And like Christina said, that's not a Republican or a Democrat issue. That's just taking care of people.
Okay. Vicki, the city council's chief responsibility is to set strategies for the city. What would be a chief strategy idea that you might have?
Well, let's see.
The wish box is wide open. What do you?
I haven't really thought about that. I mean, wow. We have to pass on that one too.
Christina, do you have any?
Well, I do firmly believe in community-driven government and decision-making. And I think that's something we need to improve on in City Council as a whole. And when looking at big picture ideas, strategic vision, I would want to utilize some of the outreach that I talked about earlier, the idea of better public meetings and things like Facebook and things to get public input and have conversations about what's working and what's not working so great and what steps we need to take and where's the priority, right? Yeah, I would want to look into those options and go further from there.
Okay. Let's see. Christina, and both of you have talked about living here for a while. So, and I think it's fairly new that the city council reverted from their committee structure to a more open working session. But if it were to revert back to committees, do you have one that you think would be most beneficial for your talents, where you would like to be on one of those city committees, whether it's, gosh, I probably should have done my homework a little bit more, but like labor and some of the committees that they have. Finance. Thank you. Thank you.
Community development, is that?
Public Works.
Public works safety, community development,
That's it.
labor, and finance.
So is there something in that rainbow that would appeal to you? Yeah.
Okay. I think my heart would lie in both community development and also labor. In my previous employment, I actually worked with quite a bit of labor unions and have some understanding of how that operates, and would like to be able to be a part of working with that. Community development is something that I certainly feel strongly about. I think it's something that would benefit from a lot of my ideas about getting public input, particularly. So I think that would be a strength.
Okay, Vicki?
I would say community development because that's just where my heart is. I love community. I love to see community get together. Maybe even pieces of community that didn't know they would get along. I love to see that. I love to see, just people be happy and healthy together.
Okay. Well, let's follow this up. Vicki, you'll start first. What is your definition of a regional center? And do you believe Willmar fits this definition?
I do believe that because I think people come to Willmar for a variety of reasons. They come here, well, even at the park. I was at the park one day with my kids and someone said, I'm from Granite Falls and we came here just because of the park. And then we're going to go have lunch and we're going to go get groceries. And, they came to Willmar. So we're a destination. And we have, our clinics, we have all of our stores and parks and things to do. Now we have the splash pad, we have Dorothy Olson, we have, things that you have to drive here to get to because they can't get it maybe in their own town.
Christina?
I would define a regional center as a city or community area that has services and amenities that would not be available in the smaller surrounding areas. And Willmar clearly fits that bill. We have, again, as mentioned, the hospital, the healthcare, the many parks and quite a few jobs that you wouldn't be able to find, thinking of say, Midwest and, of course, Jenny O, things like that, that only Willmar can provide in this particular region. I have many church friends that live out in Candy High and Atwater, and many of them, they come to Willmar just about every day. And we are clearly a regional center. We've become one, and I think we need to adopt that mindset and behave as such, and be the regional center that we are, and be proud of it.
Okay. The street question, here it comes. Some of Wilmer's residential streets are in poor shape. Are there any long-range plans that you can think of for repairing them? If so, how would these projects be financed? I think that's going to be key to you guys because some of that information you don't know, but you would have some ideas on how financing should go. Christina, you're first.
Well, in looking at the proposed 2019 budget that I know this council will be deciding on by the end of the year, I noticed $4.8 million has been earmarked in the capital improvements this year for streets. And, that is over half of the proposed capital improvement budget. It's a significant portion, and rightly so. We definitely have a lot of streets, and as mentioned in the mayor's forum and elsewhere, we're behind the curve on that. We need to play catch up, which is a sad situation, but it's the one we're in. I think we need to be creative in a lot of the ways we find the funding for that. Looking at the general budget, 83% of that general fund is fixed. It's simply what we need to keep the lights on and to keep the services that we want. So only 70% of our general fund is flexible. That's not enough money to cover the city streets and to cover all the other improvements we want. So we need to look at things like some grants and some aid and other opportunities. That's something I would like to really research and look at other cities that are close in our size and see what they're doing and find some creative solutions to find that funding.
Vicki?
I agree with Christina. That's all I have.
Such a wonderful working relationship. Yeah. Okay, homelessness. What, if anything, can the city do to address homelessness in our community? And we could probably just as well, we've already talked about it, the lack of affordable housing. It's just key.
Yeah.
Vicki?
Well, for one thing, I think Family Promise does a really good job. And besides our city helping this, I would like to see citizens help more, just like Family Promise is doing. But then the Fifth Street Flats, what it's called? Yeah. They have some units for the homeless people, which I think will help people get on their feet and be a stepping stone for them. But it is a problem, and it would be nice if everyone could.
Christina?
It's a kind of a badly kept secret that there's homelessness in Wilmer. I have a friend that used to work at Heartland. My church works with Family Promise, and we've brought meals to families that have utilized that program. And there are places like Atlas and Fortress and Women's Shelter that provide temporary housing and care. But sadly, it's not enough. And there are people here that are living in their cars. They're hiding in the parks at night. They don't want to be known that they're homeless, but they're there. And we need to do something for them. And I have heard from many people that work with the homeless in this area and are crying out for the need for an actual homeless shelter that's going to provide some assistance in finding a job, in just getting back on your feet, and eventually finding a place to live on your own. People need that hand up sometimes when they get into these desperate situations that, are by and large not anyone's fault. It's circumstantial. It's a sad story, and we as a community need to care for all those because we don't know if it could be us next.
So since both of you know that this kind of problem exists, how do you see the city letting the general population know that? Because I think the majority of people just kind of hum along and don't think much of it until something like this, a question like this, comes up. So Vicki, how could we best inform the people in the city of Wilmer about the terrible homeless and lack of housing situation?
I don't know, maybe there could be some kind of a community meeting where we talk about the way the community could help, you know, and let people know how many homeless there are. And they do hide, they don't want to be seen. So if we could talk about it, maybe have ways that the community can help with clothing or food. I mean, we already do clothing drives and food drives, but nobody really sees a face to that. So I think if we could, you know, talk about, it's kind of a touchy thing, I think. So, but we need to talk about it, you know.
Christina, do you have any ideas how, as a city council person, the city founders, or not founders, but the people of Red Bee could better educate us?
Yeah, well, I do agree. It's a very sensitive issue. It's a personal issue. There's a lot of shame in that issue, which shouldn't be. I think that's a stigma we need to break as a society. That's not just a rumor thing. That's a country thing. And so, but I want to be sensitive to that. I don't want to say, you know, come forward and be seen when it's hard. And I understand that. I do think it's more community meetings on that might be a good idea. I think as a person on city council, I think that the job title goes a bit more beyond just doing the work of the city, but it's also being an advocate for the city. And I would see myself as that. And I would bring that story to the state legislature. I would bring it to other businesses and see if there's a way we can partner and to do something about it together.
Okay. As you go door to door campaigning, what is the biggest issue you're hearing in Ward 2? Christina.
Definitely water and flooding. And, you know, it's home for me. I think it was 2-3 summers ago where we had those terrible rains, and, you know, one of my neighbors just lost their basement, and it was awful, absolutely awful. And I think we need to be addressing that. In Ward 2, it has several areas that are in desperate need. I know that there is a plan in place, and I know that there's 4 key areas. In Ward 2, there's the Menards area and around Kennedy Elementary, and that's my area. I would like to find out a bit more information on how that list of priority order happened, and to maybe get some answers of how we could speed up that process a little bit for our ward.
Vicki.
It's definitely the stormwater and streets. You know, I hear a lot about the streets. And yeah, there is a plan in place, but when you tell people that, they want to be the first on the plan, so that's kind of tricky. Yeah,
Because we can't all be first.
right.
My place first. All right. I hold in my hand the last question, which was the last question that the mayoral candidates had. What question has not been asked that you feel you would like to speak to? Vicki.
Well, I would say it's the local option sales tax. Yeah, definitely. And I guess I feel like I was really torn on that at first, but I'm still kind of torn. I'm so glad that it's going to the ballot so that everyone has a chance to vote on it. But I do feel like it would better our community, and it would be good since people are coming here and using our facilities and our, you know, our streets and our parks. It's only fair that they would have a small part of the tax to pay. That would help bring nicer things here for them to use too.
All right, Christina.
Well, I hate to buck the trend at this point, so I'm going to also say the local option sales tax, and that would have been my answer anyway. I have been asked my feelings on the sales tax and would I vote for it. And normally I'm hesitant to approve an added tax if there's no plan or purpose behind it. I would not be in favor of that. However, I think the Invest in Wilmer group they've done their work, and it's clearly a community-driven plan in place. It addresses areas that benefit every area in Wilmer, our seniors, our youth. so many different people are going to benefit from this option, this plan, that I do find I'm in support of it. However, as Vicki said, it's to a vote, so it's not up to me to say if this happens. It's up to you, the voters. And my job on City Council, if it does get passed, is to make sure it is implemented as efficiently and responsibly as possible.
Very good. Well, I think that the voters of Ward 2 should be excited about two absolutely new people that have decided to run for office and to make their opinions known, to take the time to go out door knocking and doing the things that so many candidates in this room do. I'm sure it's been an education for you that you will never forget. And we are really pleased that you're part of that. So with that, let's go ahead and begin with our closing statements. And Christina, we will begin with you.
Well, thank you again for the opportunity to be here. I'm so grateful for the League of Women Voters that put these forums together for the public. And thank you to the RAC and KWLM for making these forums available to everyone. And most importantly, I want to thank everyone who took the time to be here tonight or to listen to this recording. I believe the democratic process only works when all voters have the opportunity to be informed and make the best possible decision they can. As I said earlier, Willmar is the home I chose for my family and myself. I love this city and I believe in this city. It's a city worth investing in for the future. I know I have the critical thinking and collaborative skills needed to work together with other members of the council and with the community and find the best possible solutions for Willmar's challenges. If elected, I intend to look for creative ways to improve communication and to focus on Willmar's bright future. I'm excited and ready for the work ahead, and I humbly ask for your vote on November 6th. Thank you again.
Thank you. Vicki.
I just want to say thank you for allowing us to be here. It's been very interesting and really out of my comfort zone. So I just want to say that I've lived here for a long time and I love Willmar, and I hope to call it my home for a very long time ahead. And if you vote for me, I would be honored to serve you all. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. I think we can all appreciate that this is not always everyone's comfort zone. So thank you for participating, and Steve Pepin and Marv Calvin prior to this, and to the audience who is here and who is probably watching on RAC 8. Later on, this program will be shown on demand on RAC 8, as well as KWLM will be featuring some of this. Or you can go on the city's YouTube page to also see this forum. Their support is invaluable to the work that we as the League of Women Voters do and to the entire city. So we are very appreciative of that, as well as I appreciate the work of our League members. They've done yeoman work today, and we're just beginning, and we will end that on November 6th. The next forum here is Tuesday, October 2nd, and that will be the Candy, Ojai County Sheriff's position. The League is also then going to be holding a forum on Monday, October 1st, up in New London Spicer, where we will be listening to 10 candidates for the school board, and that should be an exciting evening. Once again, thank you. Please remember to vote on November 6th, or you can certainly participate in early voting. That has already started, and you just need to check with the county auditor's office on how that process goes. Thank you and good night.